Okay, let's bring him in. Justin Dunk from 3downnation.com joining us from Southern Ontario today. Do we got him? There he is.
Right there.
Good morning, Justin, or good afternoon to you. How are you, my friend?
Actually, in Saskatoon, buddy, waiting for Dukes to get up here for the game tonight.
Big game. Mason Nias returns to the helm for the U of S Huskies. Why don't you two go with a Canada West preview right now, real quick, for the benefit of those teams?
Yeah, Nias is back. This is what we were hoping if it wasn't for the Huskies game in Alberta last week. This should have been a showdown for first place. I'm excited. What do you got? You've been doing the homework here the last couple of days.
Trying to be ready. Jeshurun Antwi is going to be back for the Calgary Dinos. They're getting back closer to full health. Dallas Both, the receiver, as well. It really, Dupont, as you mentioned, we were talking about it last week before the Alberta game, could be the game of the year in the regular season. And I still think that it is. The Hardy Cup rematch from 2018 where the Huskies upset the Dinos, who were the heavy favorites going into that game. Saskatchewan not quite happy with where they're at, 2-2 overall in the season, but a chance to really kickstart the second half of their schedule.
To the CFL, and it has not been the year of the quarterback. This morning's news that Trevor Harris has gone to the 6-game injured list for Edmonton. What does that mean for the Esks, do you think, Justin?
They're going to go out looking for quarterbacks. They've been in touch with a few, and I'll have some of that news hopefully soon up over the weekend on 3Down Nation. And the trade market is going to have to become a potential viable option if they don't find any guys on the free agent market that they believe they can bring in and run the Jason Maas offense. The interesting part about it for the Eskimos is that they're stacked with playmakers over there. The offensive line has been great in protecting Trevor Harris. Part of that is because he gets the ball out so quickly. But I don't get the sense that Edmonton is tied to Logan Kilgore and maybe wants to go on a stretch run with them. The part to me that stands out about Harris is that he actually can't feel the ball coming out of his hands. And I'm no doctor, but I wonder if there's been a little bit of nerve damage there, and if that's part of the reason why he's landed on the 6-game injured list. And if you look at it long term, it might be a little bit of a mistake by the Eskimos to not put him there last week, where he could have been on there for a couple games and maybe save some salary cap space to go in and, let's say, spend a bunch of money on potentially a Kevin Glenn or Brandon Bridge or some of the names that are out there.
Are the Bombers going to be in the same market for a veteran quarterback too, whether it be free agency or when we say free agency, anybody that might happen to be on the street or active prior to the October 9th trade deadline? Are the Bombers and Eskimos going to be fighting for the same guy here?
I don't think the Bombers are. They really like Chris Streveler, and there's some people around the organization that actually feel like they're a tougher football team overall when Streveler's on the field compared to Matt Nichols. That's no slight at Nichols. It's just the attitude that Streveler brings to the field. Sean McGuire is a first-year rookie who's backing up Streveler right now of the CFL. He knows that offense, and he's been in it, and Paul Appelese favors quarterbacks that know the system. So maybe they reach out to a guy like Kevin Glenn again, but they've already gone down that road when initially Matt Nichols suffered the injury. So I think unless there's an opportunity where a guy might know Lapalise's system and they feel like they can force feed it to him quickly, they'll probably stay with status quo in the peg.
You're at a record injury year. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Only one quarterback, I think, standing. That's in Vancouver. What's your thinking as what's going on there?
I think it's just an anomaly, to be honest. And in the wide open game with some of the pass rushers that come off the edge on the Canadian field, that sort of favors quickness. That, to me, it just stands out as a statistical anomaly because you talk to guys around the league, personnel men, coaches, coordinators, all the rest, and they really can't put their finger on it. And you look at the one guy in BC who's still standing, Mike Riley, you can argue he's the one guy that's been beaten up the most. So to me, I just think it's kind of fluky injuries, let's say like with a Trevor Harris, that's something that doesn't happen necessarily all the time, or the kind of injury that stands out. Jeremiah Masoli goes down with a non-contact injury. So I don't think this needs to be put on the CFL. I actually think that's false to do that because they are trying to make a lot of steps in the ways of player safety. They could use a lot of help in the other areas, but I don't really think the quarterback injuries is an issue you can put on the league as a whole.
Edmonton Eskimos, a lot of conjecture out there and talk that Jason Maas will be gone at the end of this year, but because of what's happened the last 2 years with him at quarterback or with him at coaching the team, not too popular in the fans. What do you think?
Well, there are some people that feel like Jason Maas was almost gone during the Eskimos bye week, and if indeed Trevor Harris was healthy, that switch might have been made, and it raised a lot of eyebrows when Marcel Belfay, the old CFL coach, was brought in as a scout because he had never done it before. He's been a coach his entire life. And there are people around the CFL that feel potentially Belfay is a coach in waiting there in Edmonton. But there's lots to be figured out. A new president with the Edmonton Eskimos. If they miss the playoffs or don't win a round in the playoffs, could there be changes? As you said, with Jason Maas, I think that's probably likely, especially with the way the roster looks. We're talking about playmakers on the offensive side of the ball. The defense has been loaded. They're at the top of a bunch of statistical categories. But time and time again, they take undisciplined penalties. And a lot of people, unfairly or not, have pointed to Maas for that. But the X factor, as I mentioned earlier, I think is a new president. Does he want to bring in an entirely new regime and start fresh there in Edmonton? That's a question that will need to be answered in the offseason.
Last one for you, Justin Dunk, is on the Schooner situation. You saw us debating the new stadium there. We all think is fantastic. I think that people in the know really believe this is going to happen. I do. Your take on the stadium news this week and where the Schooners stand as we sit here today?
The Halifax mayor said that he still wants to see more details. And I think what he's getting at is the structure and how the financing is going to work for the stadium. I really like the idea. It's a much smaller number than I think a lot of people felt it was going to take to get a stadium built out there, around $94 million plus $10 million for land costs. So that's small when you look at some of the costs, and you guys were right there in Regina, what it costs to put up Mosaic Stadium. Now it's a great, unbelievable state-of-the-art facility. But that's not what they need in Halifax. They just need something that is functional and is new and that more actually plays to the people and can be used year-round, not just as a permanent CFL facility. So I think the idea behind it has been smart from Schooner Sports and Entertainment, but they need to continue to push it further down the line and really come up with a funding model that the politicians can get behind.
Justin, thanks so much for the insight. Have a good call to the Huskies game tonight. Where can folks find it? Do you want to jump in on that, Darren or Justin?
DuPont might know better than me.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest one, CanadaWest.tv will have it. But it's also on SaskTel in HD. It's on TELUS, Bell MTS, all across Western Canada from Manitoba all the way to the West Coast. So depending on your provider. So TELUS further west, Bell, but in Saskatchewan, it's SaskTel.
SaskTel, Local Max Television. Justin, thanks again. Have a great call, my friend.
Cheers, guys. Be well.
See you soon.
Thanks,
He's
Justin.
the sharpest. Justin Dunk joining us from his downtown Saskatoon hotel. Speaking of Saskatoon, shout out this morning to Scott Henbury. He is at the Great Western Brewery, their director of sales. Thank you, Scott, for tuning in. And again, thanks for your partnership of this fine show. There we go. Producer Clark wanting us to dig at Justin Dunk. This is the 10-year anniversary of... It's a forgettable moment for him, and I get it. A lot of people don't want this stuff brought up. It was a rivalry game. He was playing for Guelph against Western, right? It was OUA, Ontario University Association football, provincially televised game, and he grabbed the camera and said into it. Can you put the camera on, Darren?
I'm not saying it.
He said, F Western.
He got suspended.
F Western.
He had to sit a game for that.
He got suspended for dropping an F-bomb right in the camera.
What, one game?
One game. But I think if you looked at Justin, and if you know him, I have a very tough time believing he would do that.
I do, too.
I know.
I met him.
I know.
I met him 2 weeks ago. I think right here. And I think he's a great guy.
But one of the things you get to know, like he's one of the quarterbacks. I mean, he's on the U Sports all-time passing list, right?
He was good.
He's in the top 20.
He was good.
I don't want to be disrespectful, so hopefully I got that right. Might be higher than that. Might even be top 15. But yeah, he's you get fired up, right, when you're an athlete. I see it. I see the intensity that Justin has when he turns it on. So he's kind of he's removed from that a little bit. So you see a little soft.
We all grow up.
We all grow up, right? But
sometime.
The fiery Justin Dunk. I wish I would have known.
You're watching Rod Pedersen on demand. For more of The Rod Pedersen Show, visit rodpedersen.com or follow Rod Pedersen on social media.